From Rocky legacy characters like Clubber Lang and Mason the Line Dixon, to new additions like Anthony Starr and John David Washington, here are the actors fans would love to see fight Michael B. Jordan in Creed 4. And I'm kicking this off with the iconic Clubber Lang. Now, the first thing you're gonna tell me is that Mr. T is 70 years old, and that there's no way he's going to agree to fight Michael B. Jordan and end up losing in a Creed movie. And you'd be right, but hear me out. Clubber Lang is easily one of the most memorable Rocky villains ever. He was loud, aggressive, and incredibly cocky, as any celebrity boxer should be. But the thing fans often forget about him is that he climbed up the ranks legitimately. He trained like a maniac in a rundown gym and took down lesser boxers left and right, until Rocky was the only one left. Sure, he wasn't as fleshed out as Ivan Drago, but Creed 4 could be his redemption. And honestly, he'd be one of the only characters the franchise could bring back and have it make sense. He did an interview with HuffPost and revealed the surprisingly deep reason why he changed his name to Mr. T in the first place. He experienced racism from a very young age. His father, uncle, brother, and basically every black man he knew were referred to as boy to belittle them. And he wondered what a black person has to do in order to be called a man. So, when he was 18, he officially changed his name to Mr. T, so that everyone would be forced to refer to him as Mr. And seriously, how is that not great backstory material for Clubber Lang?
Right, well, I changed it because I wasn't given respect before. You know, people have a tendency to always constantly call a man boy. For what reason, I don't know why, so I changed my name to Mr. T, so the first word out of everybody's mouth would be Mr. That's a sign of respect.
He could return to the series with a bang, and we'd get a more complex version of him. He could have a son who wants to challenge Donnie for the throne, and it could be one of those moments where you don't know who to root for. Donnie, the one who overcame every obstacle like a champ and deserves his place in boxing's Hall of Fame, or Lang's son, who understands his father's struggle with racism in the 80s, and wants to make a name for them both. Anyway, Lang's just one legacy character who could be marketing gold for Creed 4. But this next character could be a divisive addition too. I'm talking about Mason the Line Dixon from Rocky Balboa. Now, I understand that he's a forgettable Rocky villain. I get it. Antonio Tarver isn't an actor, but he did hold up his own next to Sylvester Stallone and gave fans a performance they loved. In fact, he's one of the few Rocky villains who actually redeemed themselves in the end. Clubber Lang was a one-dimensional villain. Ivan Drago only redeemed himself in Creed 2. And Tommy the Machine Gun from Rocky 5? Well, let's just say he's the only character who will never be worth bringing back. Anyway, Mason might not have been a more compelling character than Rocky Balboa, but he can certainly come back as a supporting character who intends on making life difficult for Donnie. Donnie's a promoter now, right? So who's to say that Mason isn't one either? Or what if he and Clubber Lang are training Lang's son for a fight against Donnie's best boxer? What if it's Donnie and Victor versus Mason and Lang? The possibilities are endless. Anyway, if you're not into the idea of bringing back legacy characters, then might I suggest some young blood to make the Creed franchise stand out? One actor who ranks high on that list is Barry Keoghan. He's 30 years old, he's an incredible actor, and get this, he actually boxes! It's true! He's always posting his training and sparring sessions on Twitter, and he's got one hell of a physique to show off. Now sure, he's on the smaller side at 5'7", but there's no reason why some movie magic can't bump him up to 5'10" or even 6 foot. Christopher Nolan did it with Tom Hardy in The Dark Knight Rises, to make him look taller and more menacing as Bane. So it's definitely possible, and it's way cheaper than CGI. But on the other hand, Creed 4 could change things up by mixing MMA with boxing. Now, the common criticism of this idea is that Rocky should be about grounding the boxing world. But in reality, it should focus on boxing because that's the franchise's formula. And I agree with that. But instead of doing what Rocky 5 did, Creed 4 could do the opposite. Instead of a straight-up street brawl, Barry's character could be that of a world heavyweight MMA champion who wants to make his mark in the boxing arena. We've seen this happen in real life, with prominent UFC champions like Conor McGregor and Anderson Silva trying their hand at boxing. So what better way to dramatize it than in Creed 4? Plus, Barry has the intensity and charisma to play a successful MMA fighter who can annihilate anyone who comes in front of him. Besides, he's Irish. His character could be modeled after Conor McGregor, and I think that'd be a perfect way to combine real-life moments with the Rocky franchise. Speaking of perfect, what about Henry Cavill? Sure, you could make the argument that he's just too famous to play a grounded character in Creed 4, because the fans would just be too excited to see his bulging biceps and razor-sharp jawline on screen. But I disagree. I think he's the perfect age to play Donnie's arch-nemesis. Michael B. Jordan is 36, and Henry's 39, and they're both two of the fittest actors currently working in Hollywood. And they're both around the same height too. Plus, it'd make marketing real easy for the studio. All they'd have to do is edit a poster of Henry and Jordan staring each other down, and the fans would go wild. And just like Barry, the Witcher actor has the intensity and acting chops to play an aggressive, no-nonsense antagonist who's too strong to take down. Even if Donnie had bricks in his gloves. But what if you wanted the ultimate villain who could terrify audiences? For that role, fans would love to see the boy's Anthony Starr. Everyone was bummed when he didn't win an Emmy for his role as Homelander, because he single-handedly cornered the market on how to play terrifying villains. Now, I know he's 47 years old, but who cares at this point? Sylvester made a comeback as Rocky when he was 60. So age doesn't really mean a thing in the franchise. In fact, if anything, the plotline for Rocky Balboa was that a fighter always has one last fight left in the tank. So why not do the same with Anthony's character? And if he made Homelander one of the best TV show villains of all time, then I can guarantee you he can do the same for his character in Creed 4. Another excellent antagonist for Adonis would be John David Washington. His breakthrough role might have been Chris Nolan's Tenet, but his performances in Black Klansman and Amsterdam were nothing short of brilliant. I've looked through a long list of actors that fans would want to see in the next movie, but John's one of the few who could play a humble underdog who's just looking for a chance to shine. The actor proved his physical capabilities in Tenet, where he performed a large number of stunts himself. So we know for certain that he could play a physical role. But on the other hand, he could also be one of those antagonists you can't help but love. He'd be the underdog the same way Rocky was in the first Rocky film. And Adonis could mirror his father Apollo's role as the reigning champion. It has the potential to revitalize the Creed franchise as well as give Adonis a run for his money, and in a way that his best friend Damien did in Creed 3. So from fresh blood like Anthony Starr and John Washington to iconic Rocky characters like Mr. T and Mason the Line Dixon, these were the actors that fans would love to see in Creed 4.